Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into what is arguably the ultimate biological secret, the microscopic structures that literally make up every single living thing around us. So, what do you, an ostrich, and microscopic bacteria all have in common? I know, it kind of sounds like the setup to a weird joke, but to bridge the massive gap between the complex living things we see every day and the invisible world we don't, we have to look incredibly close. Because it turns out we are all built from the exact same foundation. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the building blocks, step back in time for history and cell theory, and then explore the diversity in cells. Finally, we'll tour the anatomy of a cell and uncover its cellular transport mechanisms. Section 1. The building blocks, from macro to micro. Think about how your own body is put together. You are a complete organism, right? And you rely on organ systems, like your respiratory system, which are made of specific organs, like your lungs, which are built from distinct tissues. But if you strip all of that back, step by step, down to the absolute base layer, everything is built from cells. Now, a cell isn't just some random, tiny biological blob. It's the fundamental structural, functional, and biological unit of all living beings. And honestly, what makes this so spectacular is its autonomy. A single individual cell is fully capable of replicating itself entirely on its own. Section 2. History and cell theory, uncovering the hidden world. It actually took centuries for us to uncover this hidden world. Back in 1665, Robert Hooke first discovered and named the cell. Then, by 1674, Anton van Leeuwenhoek found actual living cells, like bacteria. Fast forward a bit to 1831, and Robert Brown identified the cell's nucleus. All of this groundwork ultimately paved the way for Schleiden and Schwann to propose the unifying cell theory in 1838. So, about that name, cell, when Robert Hooke was looking at a super thin slice of cork under a really primitive microscope, he sketched out these tiny, hollow little compartments. To him, they looked exactly like the small, bare rooms that monks lived in, which, you guessed it, were called cells. And the name just permanently stuck. Decades of these microscopic observations eventually culminated in cell theory. The foundational rules here are actually pretty simple, but they're absolute. 1, all living organisms are composed of one or more cells. And 2, new cells don't just magically appear out of thin air. They arise exclusively from pre-existing cells dividing. Section 3. Diversity in cells, shape, size, and number. When it comes to cells, life takes on some wildly different strategies. Take unicellular organisms, like bacteria or paramecium. They are these rugged little survivalists where a single cell does absolutely everything needed to survive. Multicellular organisms, like humans and animals, are a completely different ballgame. We are highly complex systems that rely on trillions of specialized cells all cooperating together. And because our cells have to cooperate, their physical shapes aggressively adapt to whatever specialized job they have. For example, you've got these incredibly long, branching nerve cells designed to wire electrical signals all the way across your body. Compare that to your red blood cells, which are smooth and disc-like, built specifically to slide effortlessly through your veins. Size is another area where things get pretty wild. We almost always think of cells as microscopic, and the Mycoplasma bacteria definitely is. It's the smallest. But on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, the largest single cell on Earth is an ostrich egg. Seriously. So yeah, a single biological cell can actually be massive enough to hold in your 2 hands. Section 4. Anatomy of a cell inside the microcity. Okay, so if we zoom in, a cell is definitely not just an empty balloon full of water. It's actually a bustling, highly structured microcity. You've got strict borders, a central command center, and all these specialized factories working in perfect, continuous harmony just to keep you alive. Every city needs a secure border, right? Well, for the cell, that's the plasma membrane. It's the selectively permeable gatekeeper made of lipids and proteins that lets the vital supplies in while keeping the hazards out. Plant cells actually take this security a step further with a cell wall. That's a rigid outer layer of armor that is completely unique to plant life. Moving deeper inside, we hit City Hall, the nucleus. It has a double-layered membrane, and it guards all the critical genetic blueprints, the chromosomes. Surrounding this is the cytoplasm, which is the fluid landscape where all the actual industry of the cell happens. And suspended right there in that fluid are the organelles.
These are the specialized membrane-bound functioning parts that do all the heavy lifting.
Section 5. Cellular transport mechanisms, moving materials in and out. To keep our little microcity alive, materials constantly have to move. Passive transport is kind of like the cell's natural highway system. Substances just naturally drift from a high concentration down to a low concentration. Because it's just going with the flow, it requires absolutely zero energy, though it is pretty slow and only works for small molecules or water. Active transport is the exact opposite. Here, the cell forces larger molecules from a low concentration up to a high one. It's pushing against the grain, which means it literally has to spend ATP energy to get the job done. Now, one highly specific and super crucial type of transport is osmosis. This is the movement of solvent particles, like water, across a semi-permeable membrane from a region of low solute concentration to a higher one. And this isn't just some dry textbook term. This is the vital, continuous mechanism that's regulating the water balance in every single cell of your body at this very moment. So we've looked at the mechanics, the history, and the structure. But it all leads back to this ultimate mind-bending mystery. How do trillions of these tiny, completely independent, mindless units coordinate so flawlessly to create a conscious, breathing, living being like you? The cell is the fundamental unit of life, but the way they all come together, it's nothing short of miraculous. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.